friends, Zig coming in at the top of the review. Today I have Grammy-nominated jazz guitarist from Akron, Ohio, Dan Wilson. I was super stoked when Gall told me Dan was going to be playing virtual shows CLE Sunday at 8 p.m. As a guitar player and as a jazz fan, as someone studying jazz, this has been someone I've always wanted to kind of pick their brain a little bit and learn about them, so this was a really exciting experience for me. I'm going to play you a little bit of one of Dan's songs called Long Story Short. Check it out. Like, rate, subscribe, review, leave a comment on the podcast on any of the podcast platforms, be it Spotify or Apple. It really helps us put the podcast where it needs to be so we can get these artists' voices heard. All right, here we go. Dan Wilson. Right in. This is a Zig at the Gig podcast. I'm hanging out with Dan Wilson. How's it going, my friend?
Doing all right, man. What's happening?
Nothing much. How's quarantine been?
Oh man, I have the beard of a castaway, but other than that, doing pretty good.
Nice, man. Being able to stay afloat, teaching a lot.
Yeah, teaching a lot, but I'm definitely feeling the pinch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it took everybody by surprise, and I was actually I played the Jazz Cruise and the Blue Note at Sea cruise back in February. So I'm really thankful nothing happened there because 2 straight weeks of being on a cruise ship. That's like the perfect storm for a virus to spread.
For sure. And just being on a cruise ship for 2 weeks straight, that has to, by day 3, you got to be like, I'm done with this.
Oh yeah, man. It was. I mean, if I wasn't around so much great music, then I definitely would have just lost my mind and maybe gone swimming. But
wow, man. Well, who are you playing with on that? Were you bouncing? Just playing a bunch of...
I was on there with Christian Mcbride. I play in this trio with Emmett Cohen, incredible piano player, and but while I was on there, I got a chance to do a lot of different things. I played with Dave Sanborn and Joey Defrancesco. Who else? There's a ton of different people. I played in a couple of Emmett's groups. I did some solo stuff and some duo things. So it was really nice. I mean, just 2 straight weeks of just some of my favorite musicians. That was it was pretty cool, man.
That sounds awesome. Usually, I've talked to a few people who have done the cruise gig, and either it burns them out right away because you got like 3, 4, 5 shows a day, and you're playing the same room, and it's hard to get through it. But that sounds way more exciting, and it sounds like you got to experiment way more than the few I've talked to.
Oh yeah, it's way better because like it's one thing if you're like in the house band on a cruise ship gig, that can be taxing to your soul. Because you're basically, a lounge act.
Yeah.
So, you're playing like Fly Me to the Moon, night after night to drunk patrons, and that can drive you nuts.
Especially when you can't get away from it. Oh, man.
Yeah. You're that guy that played Fly Me to the Moon. Yeah. How does the one part go? That's just...
Can you do it again?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's cool. That's cool that it was such a unique and like experimental like experience as opposed to just like the lounge act. Now,
exactly. Yeah.
You do a lot with Joey, man.
Yeah. Well, I did. I played in this band for 4 years, 4 or 5 years, something like that. I think it was 5 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, he has a new group now, so I'm playing mostly with Christian Mcbride and
he rips too, man.
Oh man, Christian's ridiculous. Yeah. But Joey was like my entrance into like the like the larger scene, and that was a real butt kicking.
Yeah. How'd that come about? How'd you cross his path?
Well, there's a drummer from Buffalo, a great drummer from Buffalo named Carmen Torre. He played for the great guitarist Pat Martino.
Wow.
And he actually recommended me to Joey. He had known Joey for a long time, and Joey was like, Carm, I'm looking for another guitar player. You know any young guys that are out there? And Carm was like, there's this guy named Dan Wilson, and he'd be great for the group, you know. And I get an email from Joey's wife and manager saying, would you be interested in playing a gig with Joey? I was like, yeah, let me check my calendar. There's nothing but space, you know. And we played a gig at the Dirty Dog Cafe. That was 2014, January 2014, and it was an unbelievable gig. And I didn't hear from him for a year. So I was like, man, I must have sucked. You know?
Oh man, yeah.
But he said he called me like fall 2015. And he was like, all right, so I'm going to need you for going on the road, and we're going to record an album. We have a 7-week tour set up.
Whoa.
I was like, what?
Man, that's so weird that you have this amazing gig and you're vibing from it for days and you don't hear from them from a year.
Yeah, man, I was
eat at the soul for sure. Like, what did I do? Did you not like how
Yeah, I was for a year. I was like reevaluating life. I was like, man, did I make the right decision? You know, but it was cool, man. Like he just, I mean, just right into it. Like we went to Europe. We went just all over. You know, we went did Northern Italy. We went to like Hungary. All these places that I read about, you know, but just never experienced, and it was really incredible. You know,
that sounds amazing. Like like to even travel to another state and be like, yeah, I have a gig. That's why I'm coming to this place. You know what I mean? It feels so cool. You're like, I'm gonna check out their Starbucks and that wall. You know what I mean? Like here in America is all kind of the same, but still, it's exciting to go somewhere new and to go to a completely different country for that reason with him. Wow, man. Yeah. How was it? Like, the music scene, the little bit you got to see when you're in each spot, was it completely different? Did they just eat you guys up?
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, because he's been a star since he was like 17. Yeah. He got the gig with Miles Davis, and you know, so he's been a star. So it was like, you know, it's like routine for him.
Yeah,
like you know, and that was like a running joke. That I would always tease him, like, man, you kind of walk through the crowd like you done this one too many times, you know. Like I'm shaking every hand. Hey, how you doing? Yeah. How you doing? You know, like. Yeah, man, it was incredible, man, and just like you go to those countries like Italy and Spain, and all they want to do is feed you.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And I was more than happy to oblige them. You know.
It's hard to turn down free food, no matter where you're at.
Yes,
as a musician, you're like, yes, I'll take 2 plates.
That's right.
Wow, man. And what was the first album you did with him? Was that the Project Freedom?
No, it was the trio album, Trip Mode.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Trip Mode, and then we did Project Freedom, and then that got nominated for the Grammy.
Yeah, that's something, man. That's a ripping album too.
I did not believe it. I was playing the Village Vanguard for the first time with Christian Mcbride, and Joey called me up. Hey Dan, we got nominated. I'm like, don't lie to me. I was like, stop lying, man. And sure enough.
Oh man, that's cool.
Could not believe it.
Was that post or pre-gig when you were playing out there? That
was pre-gig because I remember he woke me up with the call.
Wow.
I was like, hello, you know, and then I got that news. You know,
that had to mess up the gig a little bit going into it like in a vibing like. Whoa!
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was not right the entire day.
That's so cool.
It was unbelievable, man.
Wow. So. Yeah. Okay, so when did you start working with Christian?
When did I start working with Mcbride? Maybe 2016 or 17, something like that. But it was while I was working with Joey. Because I met Mcbride through Terry Pontremoli.
Yeah.
from Tri-C Jazz Fest, and shout out to Terry for the introduction, because he didn't know me from Adam, and she was like, Christian, there's this guitar player. You guys have to play together. He was an artist in residence at Tri-C, and she's like, you got to meet this guitarist. You'll love playing with him. Blah blah blah. And so he comes, and it's supposed to be like a jam session, but we end up playing duo.
Okay.
We played 3 tunes. We played Bolivia by Cedar Wall. We played Sunny Moon for 2, and Honeysuckle Rose.
Okay,
and
cool.
Man, this dude, he took that bass apart, put it back together, and it was unbelievable. Then I didn't hear from him for a year.
Yeah, what's with this year thing, man? That's so
I don't know.
weird.
I don't know these Philly guys, man. So I get a call from his manager. He's like, "You want to join McBride's band?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, absolutely."
That's awesome. Did you guys play at Mahal's at one point?
That was the first one. That was the first time we ever played together. Yeah.
Okay, I was talking with Joe Rangel, and he was saying, he's like, yeah, they played this gig at Mahal's, and it was insane. And like he was saying how you tore apart these tunes, and like that's crazy. I didn't know that was the first time.
That was the first time.
That's wow, man.
First time, man. Like it's one of those gigs that I feel like I've been practicing my whole life for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I felt the same way with Joey. I just, the music that I always loved and practiced to, like I always felt like, man, I would love to be on a gig like that, and just for it to happen was a real blessing.
That's amazing. Well, that's hopefully when all that practice and time put in pays off is in the moment, and you never know when that moment is. So, wow, man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, working with guys like that have stories with Miles and stuff, is there like endless like cool like random tales on the road? You know what I mean? Like,
oh man, yeah. Some of which I can't really repeat.
Yeah.
But some of like
some public highlights that can be allotted.
yeah. No, they're they have an endless amount of stories. I mean, and it's cool to hear these stories, of all your favorite jazz musicians, because it humanizes them. You think of them as these kind of larger than life figures, but you figure out, oh man, they were just a dude with a bunch of quirks.
Yeah.
They just happen to have this massive arsenal of skill. You know what I'm saying?
Because you look at these records and these posters of the record, and you're reading the books, and you're seeing just these images and hearing these amazing sounds, and then you're like, oh, Coltrane likes sweets. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. That's a perfect example. Like these giants among men. It's like he couldn't resist sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, cool. So that makes me, it makes my affinity for fried chicken and other fried foods, a little more bearable,
But in a way that still makes them more legendary. You're like,
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool, man. Now, what got you into guitar? What was your kind of like start to all this, and what got you kind of down the path of jazz?
Well, so the church that I grew up in, also you can probably hear my nephew in the background.
It's all good.
So the church that I grew up in, the music was just central to everything we did, and there were like, I can name like 30, 40 guitar players offhand, from that church that I idolized, because it was a special type of gospel music that really lent itself to jazz. And I remember when I started listening to jazz, I was like, I remember thinking, man, this ain't nothing but church music with a couple more chords.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and it's not like you're. I mean, it's traditional gospel music in a sense, but there's a walking bass line.
Yeah,
it's guitar. There's always two guitars, bass, drums, tambourine, piano. So, and all my favorite guitar players in the church listen to Wes Montgomery, listen to George Benson, they listen to Grant Green, they love Charlie Christian.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just grew up copying what they did, and then when I heard Benson and Wes, I was like, oh man, this sounds like Elder Ray Green. It sounds like Mark Green. It sounds like Arthur Gale. It sounds like Israel Simpson. You know, I'm just like, you know.
Wow. So sorry. Mm-hmm. So was it like the voices they were using, or the phrasing, or both of it that lent itself to like a more jazz influence? And then,
well, all of it, like all of it, the voicings, the way the music swung, every song swings.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, every there's no like, you know, there's no pocket.
Yeah.
Music in that church, everything swings, and so like I just remember when we used to play the church conventions every August. The church headquarters is in Coshocton, Ohio. I used to listen to, me and my cousin Cedric used to listen to Wes Montgomery and Jimmy Smith before services. Then I used to try to play that stuff in the services. I used to get in trouble. You know, they'd be like, "Brother Wilson, we realize that you like Wes Montgomery and Jimmy Smith, but there's a place for it." You know, I'm thinking like, yeah, that place is, you know, I played it earlier. You know,
it's in that pocket. It's the right way to put it. It's on that change.
Right.
Wow. Well, that's a really cool way, like, because I think like jazz, when you look at it from like, if you never heard jazz and you looked at Coltrane, you're like, whoa, that's a lot. You know, that's almost, or anyone put the name there, and like when you see the real deal, it's almost like for someone who's never experienced it, unless they have that weird thing in their brain that's like, this is it. It's kind of stepstones, and that's a really interesting way of how like your whole musical journey kind of was along that path.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So do you still? Sorry, no, you keep going. You keep going.
No, I mean, to that point, I think it's the way jazz is discussed is like nowadays. It's discussed in terms of not really being connected to any specific culture.
Yeah,
but it is. You know, like African American music exists in a continuum. You know, and it's cumulative. You know, you have spirituals, you have gospel, you have the blues. You know, all the like the field songs, and you know, all this stuff is interrelated. You know, and so that was just my culture. You know.
Gotcha.
It's just like you know, but the way jazz is discussed many times is like the cultural component is kind of left out, but that's such a huge part of it.
Definitely. It's almost like when you look at music from around the world and you see like certain rhythms, like in Cuba. And like whenever there's that type of swing or that specific type of rhythm that's added to it, it's coming from a different culture or an African culture. It's like a blend of things. And it's interesting, even like when you like step back and like you see the rock guy who's just learning rock chops, you know, and like that's its own culture when it's within itself. It's weird how like I was thinking about that the other day. Like it's a weird, like music is almost in any genre or any sort is kind of like this study of some culture, and like a lot of times you're learning like standards. If it's like rock, like you're learning like Walk This Way and Smoke on the Water, or if it's bluegrass, or jazz, or like pop, if there's these set standards that you learn so you can do the gig and you can expand from. So it's every genre is like a weird like culture study, a culture crash course.
Yeah, and that's been one of the most fascinating things about music to me. It's kind of you're right. It's like a window into culture, you know, and that's one of the cool things. Like when I started trying to learn Brazilian music, that was kind of a window into that specific culture, you know.
That's a cool guitar sounds there, man.
Oh man, it's incredible, man. And they have their songbook is so expansive.
Yeah.
You know, you can spend you can spend a whole lifetime and not get through the whole thing. You know.
Was it? Wow, man.
So,
Yeah. Well, and it's such a part. Like you think of Carnival, and you went to Rio, right, to study.
yeah. The first time, yeah.
How was that?
Oh man, it was incredible. It was like you know, I went down there and I just barely spoke Portuguese. You
Yeah.
know,
Are you fluent?
so I can carry on a conversation, but
Okay.
I wouldn't consider myself fluent.
Yeah,
You
cool.
know,
Still.
I yeah, I actually ended up going back there for my honeymoon, and I was a little better then, so we were able to get around
Nice.
and you know, kind of experience a little more. But man, that music, man, I really I think as far as like African based music in the Americas, I feel like African American music and Brazilian music are kind of cousins, are close cousins. You know, just because I mean they swing differently, but the fact that they swing is like, you know, it just makes them really closely related. Like when you're hearing like a Brazilian 16th note, you're not hearing dega 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 dega.
Yeah.
You're hearing you know, you're hearing a specific type of accent, a specific type of language. The same way when you hear swing, when you're hearing, you know, ding, you take it to bing, you take it to get doom, you take it to, you know, there's a certain type of weight that's on the quarter note.
Yeah.
You know, that's really not, it's not straight, and it's not directly on the beat. You know.
Wow. And then was it? Because I'm a music teacher at a charter school out of Parma.
Mm-hmm.
And with this whole COVID thing, like I've been teaching from home and doing like online lectures, and we're learning about music from around the world. And I've been diving into Brazilian music, and like, yeah, and trying to learn myself like from a book is a completely different thing. And I was talking with a friend, and this is a side note, but like I was like, what do you think is the best way? Because my friend, he studied flamenco music, and he went to Spain and like did the whole like field study, and went out there and was like studying with a guy, and he wouldn't speak English in the lesson, but out of the lesson he would talk to him in English. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
But he's like, the whole thing was kind of like, my friend was like, you got to immerse yourself in it and get in the culture and go there if you can. That's like the real way to learn this stuff. And like
100%.
And it's like the guy not talking to me in English within the lesson almost made more sense with musically how some phrases fit, hearing it in his own language.
Because everything doesn't translate directly.
Yeah, which is
that's the cool part, man. You know, you get to experience something that you never would have thought of just as a result of being born where you were, you know, and being born who you were.
It's
you know,
so mind blowing how much of that is thrown into this. You know what I mean? Into this select notes and the you know, like it's so weird how much of it is all culture, and like and that makes it so hard to learn something from afar. But yeah, there is a weird with the weird like rhythms in two, and then like the getting like everything. There's that anticipation in like Brazilian music, which is I think it's really cool and fascinating, but like you know, tricky. What got
yeah.
Do you think like studying bossa novas or playing bossa novas, what kind of got you into Brazilian music?
Oh, that's simple.
Besides just the sounds, I guess.
Kip Reed. The bass player, Kip Reed. That's he's responsible for my kind of obsession. Because I was we played a concert when I was going to Hiram College in 2005. I was like 19 or 20 or something like that, and we played a concert. And during rehearsal, I was just kind of, you know, I learned this tune called "Samba de Orfeu."
Okay.
And it's ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. So I was playing some just terrible stock rhythm, and he was like, "Dude, let me see your guitar, man." And I was like, "Oh, all right." And he just started playing, you know. I was like, "What the heck is that?" He was like, "Man, check out some bossa nova records. Check out Jones Roberto and Dorival Caymmi, and and I after I heard Dorival Caymmi voice and guitar, I was like, this is it right
It's
here.
a good record. Wow, man.
Yeah, and I got hooked.
Cool. It's weird that like music like that's kind of what you would when you get into it, it's not, but from a distant listener, it's like, oh, that's relaxing, like that, and like reggae music. But so much of that music is politically charged, and like there's these huge political movements, and like it's amazing that tones like that are almost light with how like heavy that music is.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great point, because and that's why I that's how I kind of started learning Portuguese. I wanted to know what the song lyrics were, and there's that tune, A Felicidade, but Antonio Carlos Jobim, and it's like the first line is Tristeza não tem fim, felicidade sim. It said sadness has no end, but happiness does. So when I heard, and it's a beautiful song. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, all right, I need to get into this.
The duality of it's so crazy.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Nice.
Heavy stuff.
Was it now? You mentioned George Benson before, and you recently got a chance to meet him, right?
Yeah.
That had to be epic.
Man, man. That was 2017, I think. The first time we met, and he came out to hear Joey, and we played at where was that? At the Nash in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
Man, when I tell you, so as soon as we got to the airport in Phoenix, Joey's on the phone, and he's looking at me and he's smiling like this evil grin, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, all right, I'll see you at the gig, George. Click. I was like, don't play around, man. Because this is the guy that I patterned my whole concept after.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've taken in a lot of influences, but George is number one for me. And so I was before the gig, I'm pacing around the green room like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna play? What am I gonna play?
Oh man.
And then I just came to the realization, like, after all of the inspiration that this man has given me, I owe it to him to just go out there and just play my best. And we played that night. The band was on fire, man. I mean, just the fact that a legend like that was in the audience,
yeah,
it just made us play that much harder. And he was really cool. He was really complimentary, and he was nice enough to just like come backstage and share stories with us. And I never forget. He said. Gave me one of the greatest compliments that any jazz musician can hear. He said, young fella, you got your own style. I was
oh snap!
I was like, okay, I can quit now. I'm gonna just retire.
Wow, man, that's insane. That had to keep it going for the next couple years.
Absolutely.
You said that was the first time you met him. So did you run into him again?
Yeah, in Stuttgart, Germany.
Wow.
It was
perchance.
We actually. What's that? Was
that perchance, or were you guys gigging?
Well, we were gigging at this club called Bix, and that was a crazy weekend because Quincy Jones came to that gig.
Whoa!
Because he was in town doing a thing at the Stuttgart Jazz Open with George Benson and Dee Dee Bridgewater and Jacob Collier. So Quincy Jones, we start the gig and there's Quincy Jones in the front row. So, and we got a chance to hang with him, and he's like, yeah, man, I remember, man, George Benson, man, he's a bad cat, man, but you cats are bad too, man.
Oh snap, man, that's Wow, dude, that's
Yeah.
so cool. That's it.
Yeah, dude. I was just like, I was bouncing off the walls that weekend, and George allowed me to come backstage when he played the Jazz Open, and
Yeah.
play his guitar. And
Whoa.
it was so cool, man. He was so gracious, man. And I got a picture from that, and I remember he gave me one of his picks, and then I tried to play.
Yeah.
I tried to play it. I sounded terrible.
What was it, like thick or something, or what was it?
It was a lot thinner than I'm used to.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
he can just glide over the strings
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's nothing. I tried to play with that thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I sound like a beginner. you know.
That's
And so I just kept it. I brought it home, and
Yeah.
my wife framed it so I wouldn't lose it.
That's definitely a frame thing, for sure.
Absolutely.
Those
Absolutely.
paper ones those paper thin picks are so weird, and like it's almost like at that point finger pick, but
Yeah. But he just happens to be like the fastest gun in the East and West.
Yeah. Man, and I've watched. Have you ever watched the Hot Licks DVDs?
Yeah.
Have you ever watched his? His is crazy. It starts off with him like being like, "This is how you make it sound like a bagpipe." You're like, "What?" am I
Yeah.
watching?
That's genius level stuff, man.
I know.
Like if you're not advanced, that stuff is gonna just fly by. Because he's like, oh yeah, man, that ain't nothing but the
Yeah,
and
he
he's
does.
just like all over the thing.
He doesn't really explain it too well unless you know it. And like,
Yeah, man.
I've been going back to that one a lot, trying to wrap my brain around it, and I'm like, I'll come back.
Yeah, man. That's some next level stuff, man. Wow. Next level stuff.
But speaking about picking, you got a really like amazing picking technique yourself.
Oh, shoot.
It's so
Thank you.
precise, and you can do these insane runs. And like, what was there that would did you just naturally fall into that, or was that a style you kind of developed?
Well, I really didn't think about it until like people started asking me about it much later, because
Yeah.
all the guitar players in my church pick like that. So I was just like, I think it was just the music that we were required to play demanded that
Gotcha.
style. So it was just kind of a natural thing, and I think most gospel guitarists pick that way.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've been noticing. Even gospel guitarists that didn't necessarily grow up in the church that I did, pick that the exact same way.
Okay, so that's interesting. It goes back to these church roots as far as like music as well. Like how much of your style grew from that? Wow.
Oh man, yeah. I couldn't. That's where I learned to play music in general. Because everybody in the church is engaged in the music at all times. Like even if you don't play, you're clapping and you're motioning back and forth. You're singing.
Yeah.
It's like we just did all congregational songs. There was hardly, like at each individual church there was really no choir.
Yeah.
That would get up and sing. It would be all congregational songs.
Wow. There's for just in general to have a thing, to be doing a thing, the way to make it felt the most is to include everyone else. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing a fundraiser, if you're doing a class or whatever, people, if you can invite people to get involved, they're going to leave with the same amazement you went into with it. So like that's the cool thing about churches and church music like that. Like you can get involved with it, and it's cool to hear that like everyone essentially came in and found a thing to get involved with and feel the music and play the music.
100%. Yeah, man. I think one of the most intense musical experiences of my life, I think, was the end of the church summer camp, 2002.
Yeah.
I was 18. My buddy Ivan Taylor, great bass player. He went on to play with Mulgrew Miller, Kenny Garrett.
Wow.
It's like he plays for this new piano player, Connie Hahn.
Okay.
She's a new Mack Avenue artist. But he's played with everybody. I mean, everybody you can think of. And I mean, we were playing the devotional service at the end of the camp, and I just remember just locking into a groove. We played this song called "Talking About a Good Time," and I just remember locking it into the groove, and the entire church just was singing and dancing. People were out in the aisles dancing. There's video of it somewhere.
Yeah.
I have to get that video, but you can see people just like really out in the aisles dancing, and just a complete worship experience. And I remember hearing the bass line kind of get messed up, and I look back, and Ivan is kind of like,
whoa,
he's like pulsing. He's like pulsing, like he called the Holy Ghost, man. Yeah, man. I just remember thinking like, this is incredible.
Wow. That's amazing that to go from playing George Benson's guitar to that, I mean, wow, dude. Did he pull it through? Was he able to, or did that bass line jump all the way?
Yeah, man. No, he pulled himself together and got right back on it and was just
That's
killing.
amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So did you perfect the picking it off from that, or was it just kind of like, just to kind of bring it back? Sorry.
Yeah, no. It was just like all the way. I don't know. It was like just the way I played just the whole time. But when I started teaching, that's when I started thinking about, why it worked and how it worked.
Gotcha.
And so, like right now, I'm working. I do these online master classes.
Yeah.
Where people can sign up through my website, and where I explain some of these techniques. Next month I'm going to do one on my right hand technique. It's just like a comprehensive, class with like multiple camera angles and
sweet.
Yeah,
right.
I've been working with this guy named Phil Anderson.
Yeah,
who's a ingenious producer.
Nice.
From Akron, really talented musician, and just an incredible. He has an incredible mind for production and sound.
It's amazing, like how much of like that rolls into the end of a product, right? Even though like you can have like a ripping tune and an amazing song, and like if the mic's out of phase and upside down, and if the camera was completely off what there's trying to be, it's these little things that make this whole experience bigger. Like,
yeah.
Well, that's cool. That was a perfect plug, man. Nice. Hopefully,
man,
some people signing up for that. That's
cool.
cool.
Slip it in there, man.
Beautiful. Yeah, dude.
Quarantine times.
Plug anything out of all these questions, because I got some guitar heavy questions. But
of course.
Plug away if you got some more classes.
Oh yeah, man. DanWilsonGuitar.com. Holler at me. Help me pay my light bill.
Beautiful. Another thing, kind of just in the guitar realm of things, like watching you play, because I was introduced to you through Bob Frazier.
Oh snap!
I studied with him at CSU, and like, Bob, he did one of these things where he's like, "Hey Bob, how's it going? Oh good, I got this. I was at the Bob Stop last night. I made a CD. He gives CDs to everybody, which is cool because he's always sharing me, and it can be anything. He's like, this is a choir rendition of some weird pop tunes all stacked in. I like it, and you know what I mean. Bob's just the man. But he gave me a CD of you playing at the Bop Stop. That was my introduction to you. Was through Bob, through his recording there, and like I was like, whoa, Bob is right. This guy's amazing. And so and then I saw you at the Bop. I can't remember what concert it was though, but I went there with him and I believe Joe. But watching you just improv a lead, you get into like this zone, and this can be me projecting it because I'm watching just you rip. But when you're in it and you're just playing over these changes, are you thinking about the chord change, the melodic saying, or like is it a combination of both?
Well, yeah, it's like, like when you just pose that question to me, you never thought about subject verb agreement. You didn't reference the alphabet once.
Yes.
You didn't think about any grammar or anything like that because you spent so much time learning the English language.
Okay.
Now you can just freely kind of communicate thoughts in a kind of natural fashion. So for me, like I used to practice like 8, 10 hours a day when I was in my teens. So but by the time I reached kind of adulthood, it just kind of came out. It just kind of comes out.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but I am thinking about I'm thinking about how the notes relate to the chords and all of that stuff. But a lot of times it's just I spent so much time with the basics that now I'm able to kind of get my point across in an effective fashion.
Gotcha. So it's just like what's the word I'm thinking of? Not necessarily worrying about, it's thinking of the topic in a sense. So the chord, it would be the topic of the conversation, and then you can just converse on it because you've read upon it, whatever. It's kind of a very Victor Wooten-y mentality of explaining just the language, but it's
that's 100%. That's it, man. It's you learn the language. You go through all the phases of human language learning. You go through the imitative phase.
Yeah.
First you go through the listening phase, then you go through the imitative phase, then you go through the formal educational phase. Then you start forming your own ideas once you've internalized so much of that stuff. Like I'm seeing it with my kid now. She's 2.
Yeah.
She's going through this imitative phase. Everything we say, she imitates it. But eventually she's going to start forming her own ideas once she starts attaching meaning to what she's hearing.
Yeah.
And the music is the exact same way. Once you start having experiences like on the bandstand, learning the lyrics to tunes, you start attaching a lot of meaning to what you're hearing and what you're playing, and then that causes you to approach it differently. I
think that's very well said.
Oh, thank you.
Very well
half the time I can't I can't explain it.
I mean, that was kind of a tricky question. What do you think about when you do what you do? Like,
oh man, no.
when I wrote that down, I'm like, I don't know how that one's gonna go, but I think that was perfect. Your answer was amazing.
Good. I'm glad.
So too, man, how's that like changed the gigging life? As far as like having a kid and trying to hit the road as much, do you still do? Or are you kind of leaning back in local? I mean, now.
Well, yeah. I mean, now we're like living on top of each other, but no, it's great, man. I definitely still love to travel, but I can't just be out for like a month anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't just be cool with that. Because like kids develop so much. They can wake up in an entirely different body at this age.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, man. So I don't want to miss that, man.
Yeah.
Like when I was younger, and so a lot of times my wife would be able to come with me, and we did a week in Australia, and she got to come for that.
Wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah, man, we stayed a couple days after and experienced Melbourne. It was incredible, man.
Yeah, man.
And
your amount of travel is so inspiring, my friend. That's so cool. Oh
man, man, and I encourage, even if you don't do it for work, man.
Yeah.
Just to get a window into how other people live and how other people look at the world. That's I think is a really important thing when because a lot of times and it's a little more natural for like minorities to have to adapt to being the only one in the room.
Yeah.
That's just kind of comes with the territory.
Like when
for us, but
yeah.
But yeah, man. But for a lot of Americans that I talk to, that's a kind of a novel experience for them, and I think it's an important experience. Just like when you're the only one in the room, it causes you to be like a lot more open to what's going on around you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I see. Yeah, and I imagine that being in that position and just going around the world and seeing how the world looks at different parts of the world and just like how similar and how distant they are is gonna have some mental like revelatory like experience, and you come back hopefully I'd imagine more open-minded and more accepting to everyone at home and just like how things work in other places.
Definitely, man. That was definitely it. Definitely knocked me out, man. Just like those little subtleties, that are just second nature to us. Like something as simple as like peanut butter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Like
you don't think about
that's
it.
not a universal thing, man.
Really?
No, man. Like in Australia, they have this thing called Vegemite.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That is, man, it is disgusting.
Have you had
It is
Marmite?
disgusting, but no, what's
Marmite.
that?
It's like the English. I was working with this guy. He's from England, and he's like a rock singer. He sings like Chris Cornell. It's really out of nowhere, but he's really talented.
Oh.
And he's got this. He's like, you gotta try this Marmite, and it's this nasty like paste that sounds like Vegemite, and I'm sure it's equally.
Yeah, man. But like, and that really tripped me out. I was like, man, I've really been ignorant to the fact that something like peanut butter is not universal. Like almost every culture has their different, like a different paste or spread like that that tastes completely different.
And it all happens to go on toast.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to ask you about was kind of related to paste and food. Was you do a lot of hunting, yeah?
I do, yeah.
When did that come in? Was that for experience from traveling? You're like, oh, this is cool. I can get into this here, or like,
oh no, that was man. That was before music, man. That was
really.
Oh yeah. I started hunting when I was 8.
Whoa.
So, and it's crazy because my great grandfather, so his family were slaves. So he left home when he was 13, and he had to hunt to survive. So when he came up to from the South, from Alabama, brought my grandfather with him and taught him how to hunt, and then my grandfather, taught my dad and my uncles how to hunt, and and they passed it on to me. So, and it just so happened that the church that I grew up in addition to having all this crazy guitar music, there were a lot of guys who hunted. So we would get together for deer season, rabbit season, and and there was an actual wild game dinner every other year.
Yeah,
where they would serve like the brothers would go out and hunt and get deer, turkey, rabbit, all this wild game, and I mean, we had deer, turkey, rabbit, muskrat, squirrel, raccoon, all that stuff, all this wild game, and it would be a church event.
Wow, man!
Every other year.
This is the coolest sounding church ever.
Yeah, man. It was a great experience, and I still keep in contact with a lot of the guys that I grew up hunting with. I mean, I learned so much about the outdoors from them, and that's like kind of my other passion. Like I bow hunt, primarily.
Ooh, that's got to be okay. That's like a next level thing, because that's not like there's precision in that and being able to pull that back and like.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, man, that has to relate to, imagine, like, just with the mindset of learning a skill and accomplishing it and focusing at a thing and seeing it through type deal. That's the kind of relate a lot to music, no?
Oh, yeah, man. And I find this with a lot of really serious jazz musicians, once once you kind of go through that process of trying to master something, it tends to follow you in every other walk of life. Well, I shouldn't say every other walk of life, but things that you really take an interest in, you really tend to approach it the same way you did that first skill. Like Sean Jones is a primary example. He's achieved such excellence in trumpet.
Yeah.
That when he started running, he was like he approached it the same way he did the trumpet. So he's like, okay, yeah, I'm just running 9 miles a day.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, because he's already gone through that process of just immersing himself in learning a skill. And you almost have that tunnel vision. So he's like, yeah, of course, I ran 9 miles a day, 10 miles a day. I'm planning on doing 15 next Tuesday.
I guess that makes a lot of sense. You're able to discipline and put into like minor goals you can reach and just power through it and learn and accomplish that skill because you proved it once with this thing to that thing. And I imagine like running has trumpet breathing, that's got some similarities. Maybe that run, pun intended, run in line that way. Wow. Mm-hmm. So, geez, man, it seems like that's so amazing that from church, all this communal stuff and like hunting from your whole family, like that's an amazing like skill to have passed down. Like, and it seems to have been so like naturally absorbed. Did you learn to read music through church, or was that like a later?
Not at all. No. Not at all? Okay. No. No. That was a major struggle for me. Because I learned to play way before I learned to read.
Yeah.
And I remember my first year in music school, I was like, I failed theory 1 because I was like, what the heck are they talking about?
Yeah.
Like I'd be smashing the ear training part.
Yeah.
But the theory would, it just wasn't there because I hardly knew the notes on my guitar.
Gotcha. Wow, man. So it was all just feel and hear.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was cool once the two started to kind of blend together. I was like, oh, okay. I started to put. It was just a matter of putting labels on what I was hearing, and I find a lot of musicians that I love teaching a lot of musicians that grew up in the church or grew up in some type of oral tradition because it just becomes a matter of putting labels to what they already know.
God, it's kind of like what we were saying with before. Like you learn to talk before you learn to read, right?
Yes.
So that seems like the natural progression. And I know with like guitar players, it's kind of like it's a real feel type of thing. You know what I mean? Not too many guitar players are going out of a book to start with, like sax players or trumpet players. So that tends to be the guitar struggle is learning to read. But wow, I never thought of it in the language context, like putting that together. Yeah. That's really
absolutely cool. Man. And guitar is a funny instrument because there are like a ton of different ways to play the exact same thing in the exact same register.
For sure.
So I think that's why a lot of guitar players struggle to read also because we're like, well, what fingering do I use, Yeah.
Here's an E, there's 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 an E.
Right. Exactly. In the same register. It's a finicky instrument,
Another thing there was one thing I wanted to ask was you did some recordings with Van Morrison? Like,
oh yeah.
What was that? That's like wait, what? That's amazing, but how'd that come about?
Well, Van checked out Joey
okay.
I think at Ronnie Scott's in London and kept in contact with him and then I think when did we do that first album? Can't even remember what year. I know maybe 2018 because I remember we were sleep training my daughter and I was like a walking zombie at that point.
Yeah. Jeez.
But yeah, we were on a gig in Germany with Joey and he was like, all right, you guys got 2 days off. I got to go to Ireland for some business. I'm like, Ireland? What the heck is going on there? So we just hung around Stuttgart, Germany for a couple days. Me and the sax player Troy, we we hung for we hung that entire weekend. And Joey comes back and he's like, "All right, you guys available in September for the studio?" We're like, for what? We're doing an album with Van Morrison. I'm like, what? What in the world? So, sure enough, we learned all of his music and went to Sausalito, California, to the studio, and there the man was like, you know, he wanted to do an album of like some jazz and blues stuff. He's like I'm mainly a blues player, you know, and but he wanted to do some jazz stuff too. So it was a cool experience. But the funny thing with him is like his primary gift is songwriting. Like he's a poet and he's an incredible songwriter. I mean, like if you look at some of the lyrics of his music, it could really double his poetry.
Yeah, well, he's the man. He rips,
absolutely.
Vocally rips. Those songs he's got classics. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Modern standards.
Yeah, man. It was funny too because he would come in when we did the second album, The Prophet Speaks. He's like, I got some new tunes, and he comes in with this like raggedy Walmart bag with this crinkled up paper.
Wow. And
some of the lyrics he's reading off, we're like getting the chills. We're like, what in the world? Like this cat's worth millions of dollars, and he got a raggedy Walmart bag full of genius material.
Oh, man. If anyone would have read that besides him, I don't know if it would be as genius. Like, you know what I mean? There's a certain... Wow. So is he, like, he's kind of a wild guy in history as far as, like, his antics. Was he, like, working with him, or was it just, like, pretty smooth going? It sounds like he's eccentric, you know, coming in with bags, like, of
I mean, he was...
But...
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely an eccentric guy. But Joey kind of helped shield us from that, from most of that.
Okay, so he was dealing with him, and like he'd be like, "Follow me."
Yeah, and I think Van was kind of like he knew that. I think he has a kind of a respect for jazz musicians because he was like he knows that we put so much time into our instruments. We're not just gonna come in there just to screw around in the studio and, you know, waste his time. Like we learned the music, we wrote out all the changes, all the stuff, you know. And so we just kind of came in there and like, yeah, okay, cool. On the seventh bar, you want this, and just, you know, ready to go. Like they had the studio booked for a week, and we finished the album in 2 days.
Wow.
You know.
It knocked him out. Jeez, I guess.
Yeah, man. We trying to.
Fair enough.
But it's cool. What was that?
I said fair enough. When you get it down, you get that refund, I guess.
Yeah, man. It was nice, man, because we just got to hang around Sausalito for like 4 more days.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, man, it was nice.
Have you checked out any of these virtual shows yet that you're doing? Sunday at 8 p.m., which is tomorrow when this comes out. But have you checked into any of them yet?
Yeah, man. I've been a lot of my buddies have been doing virtual shows and all these. They've been going live on Instagram and Facebook. I did a thing for Downtown Akron Partnership.
Yeah.
Where I went live through their Facebook page. And you know, it's been nice, man. I mean, this is a lot of people are viewing this as like, oh man, what are musicians going to do? But it's just a time for us to get creative, you know.
Definitely agree.
And I'm really hoping that it's a time where some of these there'll be kind of a paradigm shift with some of these streaming companies to where the actual model will change to where artists can get compensated for their hard work fairly.
Yeah.
You know, because we're seeing how destitute some of the artists are, you know, without being able to work.
For sure.
But if perhaps if they were fairly compensated for their work, then they would have more of a safety net.
Definitely, and it
You know?
means to make these stream, because a lot of people are just doing it with their phone in their corner of the room that looks nice and just rolling with it, and it's almost like the wild west of digital busking in a way.
Yeah.
And like it's really hard to find like a means that's gonna like help you out. Like it's not like these partnerships are really important because they do, and a
Yeah.
lot of those are prepaid, right? And then
Yeah, they're huge, man.
and like this virtual show one that you're doing on Sunday, that one's really cool in particular because they apply for it. I know you kind of got a different in with the Tri-C Jazz Fest, right? Or Tri-C
Right.
crew got you involved with it with God was telling me, but there's like in the application, it's all about like how many gigs you have lost. So their whole thing is like helping out the musicians that are really hustling and bustling and out work from all this.
Boy,
And
that's amazing.
It's a really, really cool program, and like that's why I wanted to help amplify it, and that's why we're talking right now, which I'm very excited about. But
Oh, that's really cool, man.
it's a really, really cool thing as far as the virtual show, and like I'm really excited to see you play tomorrow or
Oh man, thank you.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool, Dan. Well, thanks so much for hanging out. Appreciate your time. This has been a really fun conversation.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Feel
man.
good about everything?
Absolutely, man.
Anything else you want to plug before we wrap it up?
No, well, just hit up my website, danwilsonguitar.com. Sign up for the mailing list. Really easy process, and just really continue to support the arts because it is a rough time for the arts right now, and even people in the service industry and workers in the hospitals just can continue to lift them up in any way you can, because when stuff like this goes down, it becomes readily apparent that these people make our lives better. So if you can lift them up any way you can, I encourage that.